You've got to be a relatively weird person to want to dress up in a costume and wallop people with a folding chair, but these wrestlers take that weirdness to a whole new level. Andre the Giant established himself as a phenom in wrestling, as fans traveled far and wide to see the enormous man in action. For the bulk of his career, Andre portrayed a friendly giant, and behind the scenes, Andre's reputation was largely the same, as most of his co-workers loved him. But Andre the Giant used to do one thing which wasn't quite so endearing. On the Stories with Briscoe and Bradshaw podcast, the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase recalled an incident with Andre in a Japanese hotel elevator. According to DiBiase, they were heading down the elevator while more people filed in on every floor. Andre turned to DiBiase and winked before he proceeded to let out an almighty and lengthy fart.
I know it's the Giant, but how could any human possibly have that much air in their body?
Needless to say, Andre cleared out the elevator, but this wasn't an isolated incident. Carrie Elwes, who starred with Andre in The Princess Bride, said on Live with Kelly and Ryan that Andre ripped at least one colossal fart on set. Somebody timed it. It was 16 seconds. Macho Man Randy Savage portrayed a tough guy with a heart of gold when it came to Miss Elizabeth, his on- and off-screen wife. In the storyline, Savage would explode into jealous fits of rage if he felt other wrestlers were coming on to her, especially a notable angle that led to a clash between him and his tag team partner, Hulk Hogan, due to Hogan saving Elizabeth. But this intense jealousy was all too real. Hogan revealed on The Steve Austin Show how he once helped Elizabeth get into the ring at a show in Paris, France, and Savage reacted in anger, accusing him of touching her inappropriately. They argued throughout their match and almost exchanged blows in the back, but ultimately made up in the end. Hacksaw Jim Duggan confirmed that most of the issues between Hogan and Savage were due to Savage's intense jealousy, which eventually led to Elizabeth divorcing him. He said, Macho was extremely possessive of Liz. He checked the mileage on the car if he'd leave her at home. He was kind of crazy over Liz. It wasn't just the Ultimate Warrior's rambling promos that left everyone baffled about what he was talking about. His life outside the ring was frequently just as perplexing. Famously, he changed his name from James Hellwig to just Warrior, and penned strange and controversial blogs on his website. One of Warrior's weirdest projects, however, was a comic book series he co-wrote titled Warrior. In it, he gives himself a superhero origin where he's born on a different planet, then sees a symbol in the sky that looks like his face paint. Somehow, this gives him his mystical warrior powers. Yet, this weird origin isn't even the most bizarre element of the series. In one issue, Warrior captures and possibly tortures Santa Claus, puts on his clothes, delivers presents to the kids, and saves orphans. Let's say this is one comic book that nobody needs in their collection. Not only was Dusty Rhodes one of the most charismatic performers to ever lace up his boots, but he also played a vital role as a booker and trainer in his later career. In addition to this, the American Dream is the father to both Dustin and Cody Rhodes, two highly celebrated talents who have left their own special marks on wrestling. Which is great, but it doesn't explain why rumors swirled for years that Dusty and Dick Murdoch had a pet donkey that they kept in their apartment. Rhodes finally confirmed with Bleacher Report that it was a rodeo donkey named Zeb. He said he could take a handkerchief off his back leg and untie it. He could kneel down and bow. There was a problem though. The donkey used the apartment as his own personal bathroom. Eventually, Rhodes and Murdoch were told by their landlord that they couldn't keep a donkey in their apartment. He said, "Gentlemen, you can't have a donkey in a place like this." True story. I've got pictures too. Whether it was as the best bad guy in the wrestling business in the 80s or as a Hollywood actor, Rowdy Roddy Piper left a lasting impression on anyone who ever watched him in action.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Piper didn't experience many boring moments, that's for sure. In fact, the wrestling icon shared one of the wildest true-life stories that anyone is likely to ever hear. Speaking to Slam Wrestling, Piper discussed the time in which he went alligator hunting because he wanted a pair of alligator boots. As Piper explained, he and his buddies found an alligator, so Piper shot the creature. The alligator moved back into the water where it remained still, and Piper and the crew threw stones at the alligator for several minutes, attempting to see if it would move. Eventually, one of his friends told Piper to go into the water and grab the alligator. Piper said, "So I took my pants off and went into the swamp. And as I went to waist level, this alligator dove underwater, and half a second later, I was on the hood of the car." In the ring, there was no one else quite like Luna Vachon. From her distinct look to her gravelly voice and aggressive style, she's someone who stood out whenever someone tuned into the program. According to former WWE wrestler David Heath, aka Gangrel, Vachon's high intensity didn't stay confined to the squared circle. Appearing on Dark Side of the Ring, Heath explained how scared he became of her when he first met her at Florida Championship Wrestling, where she walked in and growled like her character on screen. His friend Tom Nash knew her though, and asked if she could travel with them to training. But Heath was initially hesitant because of her intensity. He said, "I'm driving," and then she crawls over and she starts hitting me. Like, why don't you like me? Why don't you like me? When they arrived at their destination, Heath claimed that Vachon launched onto his back and bit him. As he complained to another person about her actions, the individual replied, "That's Luna, you idiot." Heath not only forgave Vachon for biting him, but they also got married. Harry Fujiwara, aka Mr. Fuji, featured both as a wrestler and manager in pro wrestling for over 3 decades. Famously, he was the manager of Yokozuna and the Demolition Tag Team. Fuji was also famous for his outstanding cooking ability. Or maybe infamous is a better word. According to former WWE wrestler Al Snow, the famously crude wrestling angle where the big boss man fed Snow his own dog was inspired by Fuji. Snow said that was inspired by Mr. Fuji, who had in real life apparently did that to a neighbor's dog he didn't like. Art imitates life. According to Hillbilly Jim, the story was that someone owed Fuji money. After the man dodged Fuji for so long, Fuji invited him over for a teriyaki dinner. The man complimented Fuji on the dish, to which Fuji revealed to him that he had fed the man his own pet dog as revenge. When it comes to wrestling's roughest performers, the name New Jack often pops up in debates about who was the most vicious of all time. A stalwart of Extreme Championship Wrestling, New Jack, aka Jerome Young, received notoriety for his violent style inside the ring, using weapons and leaving himself and opponents in bloody heaps. But it was no gimmick. In the early 2000s, New Jack competed in a match against Vic Grimes that left him injured. According to New Jack, Grimes never called him to check up on him. The wrestlers faced off in a match a year later, which was scheduled to see Grimes thrown from the top of a scaffolding through a stack of tables. New Jack sensed a chance for revenge, so he bought himself a taser and used it on Grimes until the wrestler couldn't feel his legs. Then New Jack flung him off the top with no concern for his safety. New Jack told Vice in 2020, "I wanted him to hit the floor. I just didn't throw him hard enough." Grimes survived the fall, but this wasn't the only incident in which New Jack went off script and attacked other wrestlers with the intention to harm them. The Fabulous Moolah is widely regarded as one of the best women's wrestlers of all time, as well as a pivotal part of the rock and wrestling connection that took the sport mainstream in the 80s. But the woman born as Lillian Ellison has seen her legacy tarnished due to disturbing accusations about how she ran her wrestling school. Several of her former students came out with allegations about Moolah's predatory practices. Speaking to Slam Sports, Mad Maxine, who once served as Moolah's protege, called her evil and explained how Moolah exploited the students. According to Maxine, Moolah kept her students in a compound and charged them amounts of up to $1,500 to stay there. The girls went into debt to her and she controlled their lives. "I made sure I had a job so I could have a phone and a car. The others were kind of marooned. It was an environment ripe for abuse." This is only one of the serious allegations leveled against Moolah. Maxine also stated that Moolah used to send out the ladies to a man based in Arizona. That was part of Moolah's way of making money. She was just a bad person. Moolah didn't have a good bone in her body. Tom Billington, aka the Dynamite Kid, attracted attention for his impressive in-ring ability as one half of the British Bulldogs tag team. While the Dynamite Kid didn't reach the pinnacle of pro wrestling, no one disputed his talent or influence on the sport, but a back injury impacted his ability to perform in the ring. According to Bret the Hitman Hart, the injury contributed to Billington's professional and personal lives spiraling out of control. Hart claimed that he saw the Dynamite Kid shooting at animals in his yard and that problems escalated between him and his wife, Michelle. In an interview with Vice, Michelle confirmed this. She revealed that while pregnant, she handed the Dynamite Kid a one-way ticket to England and asked him to leave their home. According to Michelle, he attacked her in front of their children and then grabbed a shotgun. He pointed the weapon at her, telling her to leave or he would shoot her. Michelle packed her bags and left with their children. In the 80s, Jimmy Superfly Snuka turned into a major fan favorite superstar thanks to his innovative and death-defying high-flying style and his high-profile rivalry with Roddy Piper. But at the peak of his career, Snuka found himself in trouble with the law. In 1983, Snuka's 23-year-old mistress, Nancy Argentino, died from an injury determined to be caused by her head striking an object, which occurred at the motel where Snuka and Argentino were staying. According to official documents, Snuka told the officers that he pushed Argentino and she fell, hitting her head. But Snuka later said he misunderstood the question and changed his story, claiming that Argentino had fallen by herself and hurt her head after climbing out of the car. There was a big question mark surrounding the incident and Snuka's version of events, with even a forensic pathologist encouraging the case to be investigated as a homicide. 30 years after Argentino's death, the case was reopened and Snuka arrested.
The family of Nancy Argentina has been notified about Mr. Snuka's arrest, and I want to thank them for their patience.
However, the court determined that he was not mentally competent to face a trial, so the charges were dropped and he was released, with the case left unsolved. Snuka died of cancer in 2017 at the age of 73.